What's the deal with public school crossing guards? Hey credos, comment below if there's something that you see every day that really just bugs you. This morning I was driving my 14-year-old to CVX Live, a YouTuber convention where he had won a pass. Check out his new channel, Bro Antics, with his big brother. I made the grave mistake of driving past an elementary school during the morning hour. There I was met by a long line of cars approaching the crossing guard situation. Now, if you're not familiar with crossing guards, let me set the scene for you. A crossing guard can be a male or female volunteer, although they're usually paid. For the purposes of this demonstration, I will use the term he, but it's a gender-neutral position. The crossing guard generally dons a neon yellow jacket and holds a stop sign so as to alert oncoming traffic. The crossing guard stands on one side of the street, on the sidewalk or on the edge, and scans up and down, looking for an approaching child. When the child is 20, 30, 40 yards away from the crossing area, the crossing guard raises the stop sign and proceeds into traffic and generally stands in the center of the road, making sure all traffic ceases both ways. He stands there in the middle of the road while the child approaches the crossing guard situation. When the child arrives, the crossing guard continues across the remainder of the road and then escorts the child across the street. Generally, the crossing guard will stop just past center and continue to hold both lanes of traffic while the child safely crosses to the opposite sidewalk. Then the child will proceed 10, 20, 30 paces with the crossing guard standing firm to make sure all is safe. All is clear. When the crossing guard is satisfied that all is well, he will then again scan both directions looking for other children who may be 20, 30, 40 yards on either side. And if all is clear, he will move to the side and allow traffic to proceed. If, however, there is a child approaching, he will continue to hold the traffic and bring children one by one or in pairs or maybe trios if you're lucky across the street. Then when all is clear, he will allow traffic to proceed. This will continue all morning. He will stand and wait as he escorts 1, 2, maybe 3 children across the street at a time, holding all traffic while this is occurring. I have long thought this is a problematic thing that we do. Now, I don't know how we survived in the 60s and 70s and 80s. I walked to my elementary school, to my junior high, and to my high school. I did not die. We aren't in a big city with massive traffic and enormous roads. We're a small town. I live in suburbia. I live in Linden, Utah. It's got a population of whatever the number right there or right there is. So this reminded me of a couple of incidents. A few years ago, I read in the newspaper that a college graduate who was visiting my alma mater walked off the sidewalk and into traffic and was hit and killed by a car. Now, obviously that's a tragedy, but I kept thinking it's day and you're an adult and you walked out into the street without looking. When I go to campus, I find the same thing. I'm driving around near the dorms or between buildings, and college students literally just walk out in front of you. And they don't look and they don't notice and they don't pay attention to crosswalks or traffic signs. They just walk out in front of you, sometimes on their phone, sometimes talking, sometimes just looking straight ahead. They walk through parking lots that way. They walk through campus that way, they walk across streets that way. The second incident where a young man who was attending college ran across State Street. I believe at the point he was is 6 lanes. Ran across jaywalking through traffic and got hit by a car. And I thought, what? These are able-bodied, intelligent adults who can't cross a street, who got killed walking into traffic. Now, I know that there are sometimes extenuating circumstances, and these things are always tragic. Do you think that the way we raise our kids these days is a problem? Why aren't we teaching them instead how to appropriately cross the street safely, instead of raising them to believe they live in a magical fairy world where cars stop and part and make way for them whenever and wherever they choose to pass? This is how I think it should go. And I'm just going to give you the idea that we need crossing guards. I'm just going to concede that right up top. So number 1, parents teach their children that when they approach a crossing guard situation, they need to wait for the crossing guard. However long it takes, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, they need to wait right there. They are not to proceed without the crossing guard being with them. Honestly, if you're sending a kid out to walk to school alone, go Johnny, go Susie, go to school, and they cannot be taught to wait for a minute or two for the crossing guard to get there, your kid isn't responsible enough to be walking to school. And as a parent, you should take charge of that. So you should be walking them to the crossing guard until they can handle that part themselves. Comment below and tell me how old a child should be before they can cross the street themselves. Now we're there, your child goes to the crosswalk and waits for the crossing guard. However eons of time it takes for the crossing guard to get there. The crossing guard says to Susie and Johnny, let's look up and down the street. Right, left, right. Are there any cars coming? And when Johnny says, yes, I see a car, the crossing guard says, good job, Johnny. Let's wait until that car passes. Otherwise, you'll get smushed like a bug, and that would make us very sad. So they wait and they watch, and they say, are there any cars coming, Susie? And Susie says, I don't see any cars coming. And you say, good job. I do think it's safe. Let's cross together. Don't dawdle in the street because you might get smushed like a bug. Just keep walking till you get safely on the other side. And you know, after a year or 2 or 3, it's 180 days a year, I'm thinking that Susie or Johnny are gonna catch on. And that, you know, maybe by the time, I don't know, they're like in 5th grade, they'll be able to walk across the street safely. They'll be able to look up and down, not get squished like a bug. I'm just saying, I think we're teaching our kids not to know how to cross the street. I think we're teaching them to only be able to cross the street with somebody helping them. When you get to that crosswalk, everything stops and the sea parts and you can pass through safely, and then, you know, Pharaoh's, I don't know, something will happen after. Let's just be smart about this, okay? Tell me what you think in the comments and tell me how you've taught your kids to be safe. If you are interested in more ranting against the status quo, please subscribe. See you here next week.